today's video, I invited Kelly to tell her story about the time she was kidnapped in Brookhaven. Let's hear her out.
Story time about the time that I was kidnapped. I would just like to add in an extreme trigger warning. So a little background information. I was 16 at the time, and my two friends invited me to a birthday party. It was this girl and her boyfriend. They said that it was in the south side and not a lot of people were going to be there. So we go to the guy's house who's throwing the party, and nobody's there except for him. And at first he was being really nice. I asked where everybody was and they were like, oh, they're going to show up later. While my friends are sitting on the couch, they start making out for like an hour straight. And this guy, who we're going to call Jeremy, he keeps going in and out of the front door. Well, my friends asked the guy if they could go to the bathroom, and he goes, yeah, it's just around back. And at this point, they are gone for an hour. So now I'm super freaked out and I'm thinking of all the ways that I could possibly get out of this house. So I ask if I can use the bathroom. So he leads me to the backyard, which is through this alleyway, and it's pretty much fenced in by like brick buildings. So when we're back there, I'm like, where's the bathroom? And he points down to a bucket. Like I said, he leads me to the backyard. When I ask where the bathroom is, he points at a bucket sitting in the middle of the yard. So I'm about to do my business and he's literally staring at me. And I'm like, can you not watch me? And he turns around, but he's still literally standing there. So at this point, I had a plan that whenever we got out of that alley, I was just going to start running. Well, that didn't go according to plan. Because as soon as we got out of the alleyway, he grabs me by my hair and drags me into the house. So right now, I'm super scared. I'm thinking, where the hell are my friends at? Well, then he says, we're going to play a game. So at this point, I'm just going along with everything because I want to make it out of this alive. So he puts a screwdriver in this lock in the front door. And then he makes me turn around and count to 15 and then turn back around. When I turned back around, he was standing there naked with a pair of leather gloves on. And at this point, I'm thinking that my friend set me up. Anyways, he punches me in the face, knocking me out cold. I woke up later to him choking me while I'm laying on the floor. Like I said, he had punched me in the face, knocking me out cold. And when I woke up, he was choking me while I was laying on the floor. And he says, you're gonna do whatever I say or I'm gonna kill you. And just to prove it to you, he starts choking me in this weird way where I literally am coming in and out of consciousness. Apparently, if you choke somebody a certain way, they can literally pass out. So I said, I'll do whatever he said. And that's whenever he forced me to take off all my clothes. For the next 5 days, I had been sexually assaulted repeatedly and had no food or water. One minute he would be completely fine and then the next he would act like a psycho. He would be like, nobody loves me, I'm the spawn of Satan, I'm Satan's child. Just a lot of off-the-wall shit. So I started using reverse psychology on him. He said my own mother doesn't love me, and I was like, well, I love you. Fast forward, the 5th day was the worst day. He was constantly beating me. He had thrown me on the floor. I was begging for food. I still had no clothes on. You will never guess what he did next. Like I said, 5th day the worst. I'm begging for food. He's beating me constantly. So he made me sit on the couch next to him, and he opens a can of cat food. I was so hungry at this point, it did not matter what it was. Well, he went into one of his episodes, and he threw a space heater at my head. I woke up and I was laying on my back on the ground and I could barely open my eyes. They were like swollen shut. I could see a little bit, and when I looked down, I saw that both of my hands had been broken completely. Like every single bone. Well, my parents, who had been on drugs at the time, never bothered to look for me for those few days. Well, that morning, apparently, my mom had this weird gut feeling that they needed to find me. So she told my dad, we need to find Christina. So they had been out looking for me and they saw this guy that was one of my friends. And he pretty much says, you better tell me where Christina is or I'm calling the cops on all of you. So they had told my dad that the house right next door was where I was at. So he went and knocked on the neighbor's door. And they said, well, we've been hearing screaming next door all week. So like I said, my dad knocked on the door of the house that was right next to the one that I was in. They were like, oh, well, we've been hearing screaming next door all week. My dad's like, why the hell wouldn't you call the cops? And they were like, oh, because he throws a lot of parties. So while I'm laying on the floor, I hear my dad at the door. And the door's open just a crack, so that way my dad wouldn't see me, of course. Well, through the crack, my dad saw my legs laying on the floor. So my mom and dad forced their way into the house. Mind you, I'm still laying on the floor naked. And the guy who kidnapped me literally pulled out this big-ass knife. My dad grabbed this dog chain that was on the floor, wrapped it around this guy's neck, and it's like trying to choke him. Fast forward, the police pull my dad off. And as I'm in the ambulance, the cops had said that they had found another girl in the house. She was upstairs chained to the wall, and he was sexually assaulting her, and she was pregnant. But the child inside of her was dead, and if they would have found her a week later, she probably would would have been dead. Because this happened back then, they weren't able to put him in jail for a long time. So it turns out that he had sexually assaulted multiple women. But like I said, because it was a long time ago, they weren't really able to put him in jail as long as they wanted to. So they pretty much based the case around the baby who had died in this situation. Well, during this time, he ended up getting out on bail, and he tried committing suicide. He shot himself in the stomach, but he still lived. And after that, he ended up doing a little more than 20 years. A lot of the women that he had assaulted still didn't get their justice. And I had tried looking for the girl who was there in the house, but nobody could find her. Well, I want to say in 2006, I was in a thrift store with my husband, and as I was going in, I saw him walking out. And I literally was so scared, like just looking at him literally like paralyzed me. And he looked back at me like he knew exactly who I was. So I told my husband that we had to hurry up and get out of there, and after that, I never saw him again.
Thank you guys so much for watching Mish Storytime. Make sure to comment down below which Brookhaven story video you guys want to see me do. Always make sure to like, comment, subscribe and turn on those post notifications on so that you're gonna watch every time I upload a new video. And remember guys, always be M&M Squad.